some of us are still scared to cry because to cry is to risk your needs not being met. And the risk of that rejection is too much. And we don't tell people what's happening, and we don't ask for help. We don't receive support because we think we have to earn it. And no, when we live in a society of people who just support each other because we're all people, this doesn't exist. It doesn't have to exist. There is no life and death fear around your art being insufferable or unpalatable. Hello, welcome back to another episode of the Neurodivergent Creative Podcast. I'm hoping that I'm less tearful this time, but I'm holding space for myself to cry if I need to. So that's what we're doing now. We're normalizing it. I'm here experiencing the raw human experience of being alive, and it's awesome, and I love it, and I'm here to talk about it. So for the foreseeable future, this podcast is going to be me unpacking the ways that obsessive-compulsive disorder has affected my life and my creativity for the whole time. I feel like Sally Fields and Mrs. Doubtfire, where I'm like, the whole time. That's me. That's me right now. So that's the vibe. Okay, we love it. We're on board. I saw this post on Threads, and somebody said, I'm not going to dignify them with their username because they posted something, in my opinion, that was mean-spirited. They say, have you ever considered that you are actually insufferable and it's not the fault of the people around you? And I said, yes, constantly. And letting go of this has given me my life back. And it occurs to me now that it is not our job to be sufferable, that indeed we can just live and be whoever we are. And the people who stay around us, stay around them because they are not suffering. The idea that to push someone away or to have a personality that doesn't fit with everybody and click with everybody, the idea that being palatable to everyone is somehow good is fake. That's fake. You don't have to be palatable to every single person. In fact, you are probably having a really hard time living life if you are running everything through the lens of how is this going to look to people? How are people going to react? Is this what they want? Is this going to offend someone? It's exhausting. It's exhausting to have that constant script running in your head of second guessing, not just second guessing, third guessing, 18th guessing, 47th guessing everything you say because you do not want to be insufferable. I am going to be insufferable. I am going to be so me that if you don't like it, you should leave. You should block me on every platform. I don't want you to see my name because I'm going to be too busy being myself to give a shit what you think about me and what I should be doing and how palatable and how sufferable I should be. I am not here for you to suffer me, and you are not here for people to suffer you either. And so if someone calls you insufferable, good, eat them. Just bite their arm off. That's weird. I say weird stuff like that. You can go back and watch all my podcast episodes now. There will be moments where I kind of stop and wait for a palatable way to say something to come in because I don't want to say something like eat that person because I'm I don't know. People out here have been affected by cannibalism, Caitlin. Jeffrey Dahmer really did eat people. Do you want to perpetuate that harm? Literally every single thought that I have goes through this. Every single one. No wonder I was tired. And no wonder now that I have identified that this is a symptom and not just a function of being alive, I can toggle it off. I don't have to look at that layer. If this was a Photoshop project and we're making a digital drawing, the layer of me that is all of that, the nuance matrix, the be a good person matrix, the good person points tracking system that keeps track of all of my deeds, in the good place so that I can get into heaven because I got enough good person points. When I turn that program off, it's so quiet. It's so quiet in my mind when I am not hating myself. I've been so addicted to my own self-loathing, and I thought it made me a good person. And what it feels like right now is that this is what it's supposed to feel like to just be a human. It's supposed to be music that feels good. It makes me want to move my body. It makes me dance. It makes me smile. And you get to just react to things. You get to just there's a stimulus and then it it reaches your human soul and then you just get to react to it. And I was intellectualizing everything. I was like, do I get to enjoy this? Am I allowed? Am I allowed to enjoy things without vetting them first, without making sure that the person who created this art that I want to consume is a good person too? And like, that's really hard. That's just really hard to do and to expect yourself to do for every single thing that you do. I've been so tired and I've been not here because all of my processing power has gone to just being a good enough person to deserve to be alive, I guess. And that's not something we have to earn. You don't have to earn being alive. You don't have to earn being a human person. What is that? A mental illness, a crippling, disabling mental illness that stops you from living? Man, I have been going through it. Cool. So I'm going to talk about a story. I want to talk about rejection sensitive dysphoria because I just gave a presentation on this today, like this morning, and I have not in a very long time felt like so alive and in tune with what I was teaching about and talking about, because I have always written it from the perspective of like, how is this going to make people feel when they hear it? Oh, I really hope that I reach them. I hope that I connect with somebody. I hope that somebody is so impressed by what I'm talking about that they want to hire me to be their coach. And that's not correct. That's not how I want to be showing up. How I want to show up is to be like, I know a lot about living this, and I'm going to tell you what it's like to live with this. And I'm also going to show you the parts where it's fake and where you can see the edges of the simulation, and you can pull back the curtain and you can say, I don't have to live like that. I don't have to live in that fear. And that, what I just said, is not something that I could have come up with and put on a slide, but that was awesome. Like, I just said something really true and really, like, I think human. I feel like I'm being a person for like the first time in a really long time. But I know that I have felt like this before. This feels familiar. And so I don't think that like my whole life has been a lie. I think sometimes I come out and pilot my life, and then sometimes something happens and it sends me into this like cocoon. And when I was on Cymbalta, that cocoon became difficult. We're going to go with that. I had a lot of depression on Cymbalta, but it happened so slowly and so gradually that I didn't know it was the meds causing it. I was every single day taking like a self-loathing pill, and I just kept hating myself, and I just kept shaming myself for being depressed and for being tired. And all the while I had no idea that I was underwater carrying this boulder. And so now that I can see it, and I'm like, oh, that was symptoms, honey. Like, you've got a mental illness. I don't feel like a person struggling to be a person. I feel like a person unburdened by other people's definitions of what I'm supposed to do. And I am autonomous for the first time in a very long time. I think that's what's happening right now, is that I am autonomous. I am talking to you directly. I feel like I'm like hiding from the OCD, and I like come in here and I make a recording and then I send it out on R2D2, and I'm like, you got to listen to me because you're my only hope. Like, if I ever get lost again, I'm going to need somebody to be like, go watch those episodes from January 2025 where you understood that you were alive. But we fear rejection because that makes sense for us. Of course we fear rejection because ancestrally speaking, in our DNA as human beings, if we got kicked out of the tribe, we were going to get eaten by a tiger or something. It was not safe to be rejected. It was not safe to be outside of a community. And now we live in this like very hyper-individualist system. And that hyper-individualism removes us from the humanity. Capitalism is taking human people out of being known and the safety of being known and loved even when you're flawed. Because we're supposed to know that. We're supposed to learn that. We are supposed to learn that the village is there even if we make a mistake. And that has been taken away from us. We don't get that reassurance anymore. We get judgment, and we get internet trolls, and we get perfectionism and canceled. I've been so afraid to be canceled. I have 200 YouTube subscribers. What's going to happen if I get canceled? I'm already broke as shit because I've been terrified to talk about anything that matters to me. Not really a risk. Not really a risk for me. to get canceled. But it is a very real risk and it does really impact people. Like, I don't want to be like, being canceled doesn't matter at all. Toss, live your life. Because there are very real repercussions to that in our modern society. But that's not natural. That's not how it has to be. And that's what I am understanding now that I have noticed the obsessive-compulsive disorder behind the curtain. And there's so much shame and stigma in like being really mentally ill, because I have always been like, I mean, yeah, I have anxiety. I've had depression, but I deal with it. It's not out here impacting my everyday life. You dumb bitch. Affectionate. Yeah, huh? You're mentally ill. So we're mentally ill now. It's going to be my personality. I'm going to be insufferable about it. So buckle up. But like rejection sensitive dysphoria comes from the knowledge that rejection is on some level unsafe for us. The vulnerability of rejection feels unsafe, and that's why it hurts. And it hurts in like low stakes, relatively low stakes ways. Like you ask somebody out on a date and they don't feel the same way about you. They don't want to go on that date. That's rejection. That feels upsetting. And it's normal that that feels upsetting because you're like, oh, that didn't work out how I wanted. I wanted to seek this human connection and I didn't get it. And that's what rejection is it's a denial of connection. That the fact that both those words have action probably means something etymologically. So I'm going to leave myself a little note to look that up and see if there's see what action means. Cool. Thanks. ADHD. We love it. We love a project. So when we have rejection sensitive dysphoria, this fear of rejection, because it's uncomfortable and we don't want it, right? And that's normal. That's healthy human brain level stuff. Suddenly I don't swear. Healthy human brain level shit to be like, I don't want rejection. But then it becomes disordered because we have created more and more ways to disconnect people from each other. We have made it a moral failure to be disagreed with. And if that's why it feels so dangerous, like it's not life and death that somebody doesn't like your poetry. But when this rejection sensitivity becomes dysphoric, becomes disordered, it feels like life and death. It feels like life and death when you send a query out to a book agent and they write back and they say, no, thanks, it's not for me. That feels like you are going to die alone in the gutter and that nobody will ever love you again. And that's simply not true. That's not what the game is. That's not the risk. Like overall, if you are a person who builds relationship and trust and respect and mutual support with other human persons, you're okay. That's where safety lies. And that's something that I had to figure out this past year because the parts of my brain that could talk about my passion, which, man, that's been offline for a long time. I'm finally passionate again in a way that I really missed. And I'm really glad it's here. And I'm really glad it's this vibrant, even after everything that I've been through, even after how bad the depression was last year. The fact that I can love being alive this much fills me with so much hope. The fact that the stakes do feel life and death sometimes, especially when it's disordered. In fact, when it's disordered, because nobody in their right mind, right? Nobody who is unburdened by mental illness and internalized capitalism and all of this shame. If you don't have shame around your creativity, you can share it with people and you know that if they don't like it, that's fine. And that's not about you. It's not a personal judgment on you. And then you get to go about your day. What a privilege. Oh my God. We don't know. We don't know that we still get to be safe even if somebody doesn't like us. We haven't learned or we haven't remembered, or maybe we didn't learn in the first place. Like one of the first stages of child development is basic trust versus mistrust. If I cry, will my needs be met? And some of us are still scared to cry because to cry is to risk your needs not being met. And the risk of that rejection is too much. The risk of saying, here we go, tissue time. The risk of saying I need help and that falling on silence is too big a burden to bear. And so we don't talk about it and we don't tell people what's happening and we don't ask for help and we don't receive support because we think we have to earn it. And no, when we live in a society of people who just support each other because we're all people, this doesn't exist. It doesn't have to exist. There is no life and death fear around your art being insufferable or unpalatable. So if rejection does not mean that we are bad and we are failures and we will be alone forever, what does that mean about rejection? What does that mean about criticism? What does that mean about this fear that we've been living with? And I think it means that it doesn't have to rule my life anymore. I can't speak for you, but I can speak for me. I really want to just say no when these thoughts come up and they say, you shouldn't do that. You shouldn't say that because somebody might get offended, because you didn't really look into that and see if there's any nuance that you needed to capture. I have been censoring myself to the point of not even being alive for the past year. And so I think this is my insufferable year where I get used to that again. So come along with me, be insufferable. And once again, a call to please support this show on Patreon, because I want to do 4 episodes a month, but I need to pay my producer to edit 4 episodes a month. And so I need $500 more a month. So that's our goal. Okay. And I'm just going to keep being insufferable until we're making $500 a month for the show on Patreon. There's some other bonuses on Patreon. There is theoretically a monthly Q&A call with me that's going to be way more fun and engaging now that I am a human person again. We've got like a small business chat in there. People aren't really using it. So maybe we nix that. It doesn't have to be there. I don't have to make stuff for you to prove my value. The Patreon is there for you to say, I like what this person is doing for the world. I like the cut of your jib. I am going to patronize you in like the classical sense of like an artist having a patron. That's what this is. That's what that relationship is there. You are supporting me so that I can support thousands of people to stop being so afraid and to make their art and to share it and to be vulnerable and to risk the mortifying ordeal of being known, because we deserve each other. We deserve to see each other like that. And so I need your money, okay? So please go sign up right now. The lowest tier is $3. There are higher tiers. Some of them have merch because I was like, I want to make merch. There's options for every budget, everybody. Go do that right now. Okay. I love you, and I'll see you in the next episode.
And tell you a joke to lighten your load and help you along, or sing you a song. Do-do-do-do-do, do-do-do-do, do-do-do-do, do-do-do-do.